So always remember, there's always a possibility of everything, and trying to control a woman to do something doesn't usually work. But for example, there's women out there with 500k followers who literally post like their tits and ass on Instagram, and some of them are still genuinely loyal. Of course, you can say it's cheating, like what they're actually doing to post revealing pictures and everything. But some of them would genuinely not cheat. So obviously, there's exceptions and averages. But what I'd say to you for the long run, which is at least like this glimmer of hope, is one, you can see it in me that like if our points were similar when I was your age, and I still messed, like I was on self-improvement like you were back then. I only got onto this stuff like literally 2 years ago. I read this book, and straight away it really helped me. And so I still would naturally have the anxious attachment style, but I'd say it's probably about 15% of what it used to be. Like it's went down almost 10 times. Like it was discombobulating. It was something that kept me in bed for hours extra than I needed to be in certain days when there was anxious shit going on. It was something that distracted me. It was the fuel for workouts when it shouldn't have been. And you can probably relate to this. And a lot of that's gone down. It's certainly still there. Certainly, there's still progress to be made. But the 80-20 rule has really come through for me. It's like I've gotten rid of a lot of it.
I see.
So the two things you can do. Sorry, man.
I was just gonna say that when I watched your anxious attachment style video, and you said to yourself, "She's cheating on me." You went to her room, and she opened the door and there was no guy there, bro. That perfectly reminded me of that time where I saw the guy in her list, and then she had no problem with following him. She get me, like that. That to me was just like, bro. I heard what you were saying. I felt what you were saying. Can I ask you? You're still with that girl? What was her name? Anastasia.
Yeah.
Can I? Do you mind me asking if it's personal? I get that. What does your? I take your relationship is healthy. What does it look like? What kind of? What? Yeah. What does it look like for you?
She's the only girl who's ever been able to actually get me to open up. So far, I've always done more of the red pill, alpha male tactic, and show no weakness things, and that certainly helped me to attract a lot of women, but to never get into a relationship that actually benefited my life. And so with this girl and rereading this book, maybe a couple of months ago or so, it was learning this concept of effective communication, and realizing that when I felt anxious, which was quite often, the only thing that genuinely would help it, which seems so weird, and all the red pillars will disagree with this, but then they're all single, none of them are in long-term happy relationships anyway, so why are we trusting them? But when you feel anxious is when you actually kind of need to express it to her, and you'll feel like a fucking chump when you do it, because it'll be multiple times a day where you'll be telling her like, I feel anxious because of this. You're not really cheating on me right now, are you? Some shit like that. And it feels awkward to think this and to express it to them. But this book just again and again kept on drilling this concept that the person you're supposed to be with, like someone who's good for your life, who you could be with long term, is someone that you could say that to, and her attraction to you goes up, not down, but up. So you could find some random girl right now. We could end up saying to them, I've got this anxious attachment style, give the book to them and everything. And if we end up saying, like, I feel quite anxious right now, if she loses attraction for us in like this red pill sense of like, oh, well, just try and fuck as many girls as possible, we failed. But if that was your goal, fair enough. But if your goal is more like this long-term partnership where you eventually want to like have children and like live together for the rest of your lives, you can't have like deep thoughts, like negative deep thoughts next to someone. You'll just be like mindless through it. And so you've got to express it. And so if you are compatible, then her attraction to you will go up. If it goes down, then it's like, what have you actually lost? Okay, the relationship's gonna fizzle out. She thinks you're a chump, but it's like you weren't even compatible at that point then anyway.
Yeah, I do agree with that. That's why one thing I've started doing, and I think this was the rule I did for my last girlfriend. Exactly what you were saying. I had an acid trip like a couple of days before, and I had this mindset of being like pure and not like honest, just totally open. Like I wanted to get to the bottom of everything as soon as possible. When I met my ex-girlfriend that day, I didn't try and put on any like red pill act. I didn't try and do any of this. I straight up told her what I thought at that moment, and I said it out straight. And it felt like everything was going perfectly for those. Now it turns out she had BPD, so I don't know if that really applies to most girls, but it seems that me being honest and open has done me favors in the past, and I think it's just when I get attached that's because I typically get to the third date ground with most girls through being open, and then I get that text that's like, yeah, nah, sorry, you know. Do you think that being open off the bat is a bad idea? Like, did it take you time to open up with your girl?
There's different ways to go about it. I wouldn't give this advice to, let's say, more of a man lower than my level of attraction and confidence and skill in terms of like dating a girl. But if I was gonna start fresh again and start dating again, it would be from the first date now. Because I'm not waiting around. You're a bit younger, so maybe if you feel like you've got more time or something. But if you are literally like you want the long-term relationship and you don't actually give a fuck about just hooking up with some girl, the reason why I would from the first date I'd just be open with what I'm looking for, and also just tell them like real things, real shit about me, and I wouldn't try and act like someone I'm not. I wouldn't take too long to reply or any bullshit like that. The reason why is because like I'd rather just save my time, which is far more valuable than just getting some random stinky pussy, and just find out if we're compatible to begin with. Now, certainly, if let's say your skill with women is a bit lower, certainly don't come across as like needy to begin with. You never want to be needy, but you want to be able to effectively communicate what you're thinking and what you're feeling. If you can't do that, and if for example, she loses attraction to you, even on the first date, if you're only thinking in binary and you're thinking like, oh man, she's not attracted to me anymore, then sure, you feel like a loser, like a failure, but like you need to not see like the success of a date that if she's attracted to you or not. Like that's what a lot of us have conditioned ourselves to. The dating dynamic is a bit fucked these days. We have to win her over, right? No matter what fucking motivational like red pill guy says that men are the prize. No, we're fucking not. We're clearly not if we have to do the work for it, right? There's a 0.1% of men who are genuinely the prize, and women are messaging them first, and you can get there in a few years or even longer than that. But for the overwhelming majority of guys, we're not the prize. And so there is a bit of like a courting experience that needs to happen. But that being said, if you try to think that the success of a date is just her liking you, one, you're going to be needy as fuck. Two, you're going to change like how you are. And then three, if you end up getting into a longer term relationship, she's fallen in love with a guy that you aren't even this person. You're someone else. Your authentic, genuine self is someone else. You've not been acting as attached or as close as you would like to be. And so if I was going to start from the start, I wish I had the strength to be exactly who I am and authentically who I am from the start. I like being close.